My name is Joshua, and I am the Tribune. This day is crazy powerful. The reason for that is we're going to talk about God's prototypes. Now, this is your guarantee for victory, not survival, absolute victory. Now, what God's prototypes are situations that He prepares you for in advance so that you can test His strategies of spiritual warfare, of creativity, of pressure. You can test that, test your relationship to Him to make sure it's clear and you could hear Him well, so that when these situations come in the future, the real situations come, whether it's an attack, whether it's a task, whether it's part of your commission, it could be anything. These situations guarantee you victory. Why? Because you're able to practice. God's prototypes are practice so that you know what's going to happen in advance. This is one of the reasons why over the years in my personal life, many of the people who have came against me and many of the enemies I've had are shocked when I can methodically understand the attack as soon as they start, predict everything they're going to do, and act accordingly, and always have victory. They don't understand how this works. They think that I just lucked out, or it was a fluke, or something else. Or maybe they're just in shock. I don't know what. But this is the secret. The secret is God's prototypes. He wants us to be completely successful. And He wants nothing to hamper our relationship with Him. And He refuses to have the mission compromise. So what God will do is, before you reach your purpose where you're actually needing these principles, you need these strategies, He will bring you crazy situations, okay, and teach you how to operate in each situation. He will talk you through it. Now, these situations are so crazy because they come way before you need them, way in advance. Way in advance. So if you don't realize that this is a prototype, one of God's prototypes, then you will actually be very confused and could be very devastated or frustrated and angry, discouraged. There's so many things that can come and so many emotions that can flare up if you don't know that God's doing this for your own benefit. He's pretty much telling you the future. He's actually giving you insight of something that's going to happen in the future. And so He's very concerned about our energy and where we're delegating our energy. So what He'll do is He will allow you to practice and waste energy in the wrong places in these situations way in advance. Learn how it goes. Learn how everything fits. So that when the time comes, you can focus on what matters and just be a machine with whatever you're dealing with. And also, it's for you to enjoy the future. Because when you are put in God's prototype, He's teaching you, say, how to do spiritual warfare or how to create while you're under attack. That's a whole nother one. So many different things He's teaching you. It feels very stressful at the time when He's training you. But after that, later on, when you're really doing the thing, it's cake. It's so easy because He's trained you, He's prepared you for it. Now, there are two sides to God's prototypes. The first side is spiritual warfare. The first side is dealing with the enemy. So He will let Satan, He will welcome him into your conference room with Him. He will say, Satan, come on in. Now, I'm going to allow you to afflict him, and I'm going to be right here standing right next to him, and I'm going to be whispering in his ear, telling him everything to do to defeat you. And there's many different strategies that He explains to you that are not obvious. One of the strategies, for example, are the strategy of opposite. This is a huge strategy that He uses that actually defeats the enemy. He will teach you how to be successful while you're being creative with Him. That's another thing He'll do as a prototype. This is the other side of it. And I think this is the most important and most valuable and exciting part of God's prototypes. He will show you first how He wants you to create with Him. And there will be minimum attack. minimum stress. He will just start talking to you and speaking to you, teaching you himself, teaching you with his own hand. Then he will allow situations to come while you're in the rhythm of creativity. This is not to stop you. Now, if you don't realize that this is a prototype, when it happens, you will stop creating. Think that this attack or anything that's coming against you is meant to stop your creativity, and you will go and fight that thing away, and you will just wear yourself out completely, waste energy, and you won't get the task done. And God says, oh my goodness, we have to do that again. And then after you regain your energy, he asks you to do that task again, and he brings the same battle, or keeps the battle the same, and you actually didn't even defeat it. You just wore yourself out, got exhausted, and now God's like, no, I don't want you to fight that thing. I want you to create while it's there. That's the true power of the situation. So he also will prepare you for things looking like they're going backwards when we're really going forwards. That's another one of his prototypes. And he will teach you how to handle these situations. Now, the reason why these situations are camouflaged during the time, and it's very hard to distinguish these situations, is because they come when you don't expect it. They come when it looks like you shouldn't be having these situations happen to you. It looks like, well, why is this happening right now? This must be the enemy. This must be to destroy me. No, it's not. This situation is a prototype. How you know it's a prototype is when it's so out of the ordinary that it's ridiculous. That's the clue that you're going through a prototype. It makes zero sense. That's when you know. Now, if you have a survival mentality, then you will not be able to fully benefit from God's prototypes and the prototype season. And it will actually take longer for you to get through it. Because if you're a survivor, you will just try to survive the situation and not come out with treasure. And something very important to understand about God's prototypes is he expects you to come out with treasure. He expects you to come out with extra. He expects you to listen to his voice, follow his strategies, and watch your victory. And many times the victory is not getting rid of the situation. The victory is coming out with treasure while you were in this situation. That's what a prototype is. How do you know you passed the prototype and you understand it? It's when you don't care about the situation that was afflicting you, and instead you come out with treasure. And you can actually see, wow, I came out with something during that I shouldn't have come out with. Anybody else in that situation would have not been able to come out with the same thing that I did. That means God came out with it. That means God gave you strategy that you followed to come out with this treasure. Now, it's really important to understand that you will see the same situations in your prototype season later in your purpose when it's really valuable, when it really counts. You will see these again. So it's a big mistake to end a prototype season and think that you don't need those lessons because you think, oh, well, that situation was just isolated. It was just I can leave that in the past. No, you need to bring it with you. You need to bring it into your next season because that's what he gave it to you for. It's not to leave it in the past. That's not what you're supposed to do. Because with leaving it in the past, you leave all your lessons. You leave the strategy. And he expects you to remember your strategy. He wants you to remember what he's told you. Because when that time comes when you're going to need that strategy later, he's going to want to talk to you about other things. He's going to expect you when that situation comes again to remember the strategy, do it methodically without even really having to think about it too much, while he talks to you about wonderful things. This is the difference between People who look like they're successful, who don't have God, and people who are the upcoming generals. Because what happens is people who don't have God, who are very successful, they're not really able to enjoy their success when massive affliction comes. That's the difference. But when you go through God's process and you start seeing God's prototypes, when you get to your treasure and you're at the banquet and you're feasting, you can sit right next to one of your enemies, smile, and just eat and feel nothing while you're getting things done. You can actually go straight from a crazy attack straight into creativity without a beat. This is what it means to go through God's prototypes. This is why they're so valuable for us. And it doesn't make any sense that we think that He doesn't prepare us through practice. That doesn't make any sense, because as I said before, He is a coach. He is a strategist. What coach do you know who doesn't have practice for their team? Please write down in the comments and tell me a worthy coach who has no practice for his team. Zero practice. There is none. So if humans understand this, that we have to prepare our teams with prototype situations so that when the time comes, we can focus on success and not survival, why don't we understand that God is like this in the spirit realm? Now this is so powerful, because this is going to free some people. This is going to have you looking back to prototypes He has already placed in your life. He already has done prototypes for you. They're already there for you to go excavate the treasure. He is still there waiting for you. And don't bring a shovel. Bring a bulldozer. Bring an excavator. Because there's a lot of treasure back there. It would be a huge mistake to think that, oh, well, this situation is just, I'll just think on it for a couple of minutes and we just move on. No, you're still leaving it. You need to go back and dig, because there's so much. Your future depends on it. Your purpose depends on it. And your joy depends on it. This is key. Your peace depends on it. Because you want to be able to come to the place with God when He is actually allowing you to step into your commission and do work for Him that is a total honor. You want to step into that and have peace. You want to step into it and not be concerned about certain things. So what He does is He will look, and He even knows you. He can even assess which things you're personally going to be concerned about. And then He will give you prototypes of those things to make sure that they don't affect you. This is so awesome. This is powerful. And this is what prototypes really is all about. So, in order to really benefit from this, you need to become His friend. And through the process of even prototypes, you get to learn His character, which makes you His friend, because you start understanding, oh my gosh, He does everything for a reason. Everything. And it's for my benefit. I'm now very careful on what I call Satan, or what I say, oh, this is the enemy. No, I have to make sure, I have to really look at the situation. Before I call something Satan, I go to God and say, God, is this a prototype? Is this a prototype? And if so, then what is this for? Even if Satan is nearby, or even trying to afflict me, I still need to know if this is a prototype. Because this is another reason how you know prototypes are right near you and right around you. It's if you start rebuking it and it doesn't go away and it stays right there with you. Because Satan has to leave if you rebuke him. So if he doesn't leave, that means that it's a prototype. This is so powerful. So remember your prototypes. Look in your life. Get to know Jesus Christ. And make sure you check in with Him first in your situations before you call something an attack or you try to run from it or anything like that. See if it's a prototype. There will be treasure for you. Hail Jehovah.